Hey everyone, I thought I'd do something a little different than what I normally do on my channel. I'm going to do a little opinion piece, I guess you would say. By now I think a lot of y'all have heard about this immigration bill that's been passed here in the state of Alabama. I live here in Alabama. I have lived here all my life, 40 years. And you know, you read what's in the news reports and opinion pieces and things like that in the newspaper. I thought I'd just give you a kind of man on the scene view of this thing, since I do live here. Now, you know, Arizona Jam Brewer, they passed tried to pass a law similar to Alabama's law, and it's been, to my best of my knowledge, it's been not upheld by the courts. They can't put it in place yet. So I'm not sure what Alabama was thinking on doing this law. You know, we do have a large number of Hispanics here in the state, and you know, they take pains to say it's not about Hispanics. It's about people of any color, any race, any ethnicity. But no, it's about Hispanics. That's exactly what it's about. So, for one thing, don't believe that when you read that. It's number one thing is about Hispanics. Well, let me tell you, coming from me, my personal opinion on this with the Hispanics. You know, we have several poultry plants around here in this area, in this county, in Marshall County, and they many Hispanics work there, or they did. And so I can give you a first-hand opinion about this, about the Hispanics, about living here and them being here and working. First of all, I don't have a problem with Hispanics. I don't have a problem with any people of any kind of race. I'm not racist. You know, I just wasn't raised that way. My parents were not from Alabama. They don't, you know, they didn't instill that kind of thinking in us locally. So that's that. Next thing is, you know, you living here with the Hispanics, for the most part, and I'm speaking for Alabama, I'm not speaking for Arizona, I'm not speaking for New Mexico, I'm not speaking for Texas, but for the most part here, as far other than just seeing them around, you never know they're here. Now, you know, you see them driving down the road, they're driving with both hands on the steering wheel, driving under the speed limit. You see them in the grocery store shopping with their kids. You know, you don't see them eating out very much. And you see them coming in and out going to work, you know, and that's it. You know, there's not Mexican gangs around here, at least it's not obvious if there are. They're not out terrorizing the place. As a matter of fact, they seem to be the most polite people that there are. You know, you just don't see them in someplace, you know, wrecking a store or something like that. And, you know, that's just how it is. There's not any kind of, you know, them acting up and that's why they don't want them here. It's not like that. Now, I'm not going to say they don't get into trouble. They get arrested every once in a while for DUI and for, you know, driving out of license and stuff like that. And I think they had a little thing that went on with they had some sex trafficking going on, and that was pretty bad. But you know, that's about it. You know, there's people around here living in this county their whole life, born here, that do a lot worse stuff than those folks do. Around here, as a matter of fact, you know, this is a bad area for meth. I may go in the dark here. I might be coming to you live from the dark if that keeps up. But anyway, this county and this part of Alabama is just terrible for meth. You know, that's a good redneck drug there, and unending problems with it. So, you know, if you compare the Hispanics causing trouble with the white people that live here and the black people that live here in this area, there's no comparison. And I'm not trying to come to the defense of Hispanics just because I like Hispanics or I don't like Hispanics. It's not about that. I'm just telling you the truth. You look in the newspaper, like I did today, our local little rag we got here comes out twice a week. And, you know, it's like a who's who, people I went to school with and people in the community that, you know, same old folks, the same old white breads and black people, whatever around here causing problems, selling dope. You know, you pass the courthouse down here on Monday when they're having district court, and it's like a trade day out there. There's so many people out there waiting to go into their court cases. So, you know, any kind of misconception you may have about, well, they want to get rid of them because they're bad people. Not here. They tend to live in the same kind of areas around here, like in the mobile home parks and certain areas of the county that Hispanics do. And I feel safer driving through their communities, and if I had to stop or something like that, you know, I feel safer going through there than I would in certain places in our town here. By a long shot, they're just no problem. So get that out of the way, you know. And the next thing you hear about, you know, you say the big thing has been presented on this. It says, well, the Hispanics are taking away the jobs that could be done by people that are here, you know, been here all their lives, the white people, black people, whatever color they are, but they've been here, you know, American citizens. And I agree with that to a point. But the thing about it is a lot of people aren't thinking about or don't want to think about, especially the politicians that wrote this stupid law, is that the jobs that the Hispanics are doing, the Hispanics will do the worst jobs there are. They get out and they pick crops, they pick fruit, things out of trees, you know, work out on agricultural type jobs. They work on paving crews. They work, you know, they work in chicken plants, catching chicken, whatever. You know, they do those jobs, and you know, they do the worst shit jobs there are. And this has been just a huge fallacy that they have, that there's just all these natural-born Alabamians here that are just waiting to take those jobs. In fact, it's been in the newspapers that once some of these immigrants, if they're legal or not, you know, illegal or not illegal, either way, some of them were legal and they left anyway. Once they cleared out, those farmers' crops rotted in the field because that, number one, these people that are unemployed, you know, 9/10 of the people, now I may hear people that say that's not true, but I'm telling you, I've been around this area my whole life. It's true. 9/10 of the people in the unemployment line around here, when they go up to the unemployment service center up there to try to find a job, they don't want a job out there working in a chicken plant, and they sure as hell don't want a job out in the sun picking crops. They don't do it. They either won't do it because that's not, they you know, they just don't want to do it, or it was in the newspaper also that they quoted a guy. He said that these people here, they're too out of shape. They're not physically capable of doing this kind of work. The Mexicans, they're used to it. Working, you know, work. They're used to work. So they can go out in the fields and they can pick whatever. If it came down to picking cotton, they don't pick cotton by hand anymore here. But you know what I'm saying? They pick watermelons and, you know, stuff like that. Walk around the field all day. The white people, black people, whatever color here, the big ones, the overweight ones that sit on the couch most of their life, they can't do that kind of job. So they're out. So this is a laugh to say that there's these hordes of Alabamians, good old boys, that are waiting to get out there and get in those fields and do those jobs Mexicans were doing. You gotta be crazy. They can't do that. And they're not gonna do it because, think about this, folks. The U.S. government and the Alabama government, they provide a big enough of a tit for people that don't want to work to suck off of, that, you know, nobody's going to starve. So Big Bubba here, you know, he can get his food stamps every month on his card, or he can get his WIC or his unemployment. You know, there's people that chronically abuse unemployment. There's people that chronically abuse disability. So there's, you know, there's all these ways for these natural-born Alabamians to get food put in their mouths, or money to get whatever, So why should they go to work? Why should they even consider going out there and getting sunburned, doing these jobs that the Hispanic immigrants are doing? So, nobody talked about this when this law was being written and when it got passed. They just thought it was just this, tell the public that, the Mexicans are going to go away, and all the white people and black people that are living here already, they're just going to rush right in and take those jobs. No. So, that's the second problem with this law. The Mexicans, it's called, I don't think it's called unskilled labor, but it's just grunt work. So that's the second big fallacy that's been put on everybody about this law. And I've seen it in person. I've seen people around here. Luckily, they're not people I know personally, but I've been around in the community, and I've heard people say that, they say, I get $200 a week on unemployment. Well, I ain't gonna go out there and do that kind of work. Some big fat whopper in there smokes cigarettes and drinks beer. He ain't gonna do that work. So don't believe that. If you hear that the Alabamians are, they've had a thing in the paper recently that Republicans who passed this law, they said, crowing that saying, the unemployment's bounced back up now since this, but then, that's not even the truth. It may have, but it's not been adjusted yet. It's not been seasonally adjusted. So, truthfully, you don't know what it's going to do. You don't know what the unemployment rate is going to be after this all shakes out. And, it's funny because already, there's been a couple of arrests of these people that work for these, like Mercedes and Honda. There's a man who works for Mercedes-Benz, got arrested because he got pulled over for some minor traffic infraction and didn't have his license on him, So they arrest him, or they're trying to make it look good, They say, well, he was detained. And they say he's hauled off to the nearest. The individual has to be taken to the nearest magistrate. The nearest magistrate? Are we in the 1800s here? Why don't you just call it the justice of the peace? You're going to put him on horseback and take him to the nearest justice of the peace and see what they're going to do to him. So anyway, this is embarrassing for the guy, and he's they're trying to kind of it's not a big deal, So that's the first thing that happened. The second thing that happened was just recently, a man that works for Honda. You've all heard of Honda, haven't you? The people who make the cars and motorcycles, and the big corporation that's built all these plants and is vested in these areas and these states and employed all these people. You've heard of them, haven't you? Well, same thing happens. He gets stopped in a traffic stop, which that's one thing that the cops down here, police like to do. They like to do traffic stops, and they're doing them because, just this reason. Like money. So sure enough, this guy, he's not any peon either. He was up in the company. He gets stopped in a traffic stop, and he has a passport. He has, I don't know if he had a Japanese license. He had some sort of an international license, driver's license. I'm not sure how that works, but he had some. But anyway, he had a, passport. And so there he was. He was detained again. We're trying to put the nice slant on this. It's not, he wasn't arrested. He's just detained. Just detained, that's all it was. So he had to be taken off somewhere to the station house. I'm using kind of simple terms here, but you know what I'm saying. So he was taken back to the police station and while he was detained, and somebody came and drove his car so it didn't get towed, didn't get impounded. And then they were able to produce the papers that said he was actually supposed to be here legally. That's the wording of this law, this great law. In part, it says that people have to prove that they are in this state legally. You have to have papers. So that's the second thing that happened. And now, people are keep writing into the paper, and it's been in the news, and the supporters of this bill, they say that, well, they're just trying to paint this in a bad light. No, they're not trying to paint this in a bad light. They're just reporting the facts. The facts are it's a stupid law. It's discriminatory. As a matter of fact, the U.S. Justice Department I think is suing them, suing the state over this, and they've already said, Janet Napolitano, I think that's her name. You know who I'm talking about. I think she's the Homeland Security. She's already stated as much that they're not going to deport people that Alabama stops under this law. That if Alabama arrests them detains them, they're not going to deport them. They're only if they don't have a criminal record and they've not been causing problems, anything like that, they ain't going to waste the time to deport them. So this thing is just going around in circles, and it escapes me why the state of Alabama, as far as we've managed to come in the past 50 years, that it can get this far, that we're risking alienating people and companies that have invested in our state over the past 20 years. We've got Mercedes-Benz, we've got Honda, we've got Hyundai down in Montgomery, Millbrook, I think it is. And we're trying to lure up these people. We tried to get a Toyota. We've got a Toyota engine plant up in Huntsville. We were trying to get the Volkswagen. Why in the hell did people decide to pass a law like this that essentially is just to get the Mexicans out of here, but in an end result that apparently nobody seemed to even anticipate, we're going to alienate some of our best business partners that we have here in the state. Somebody explain that to me. So I don't know what's going to happen with this thing. I don't know if they're going to try to. They said they're backtracking a little bit now. Politicians, they're never going to actually come out and say we made a mistake. Especially the authors of that bill, which was Mickey Hammond and Scott Beeson of Gardendale. They're the architects of this landmark piece of legislation that passed. And politicians never come right out and say, "Oh well, we screwed up. We made a mistake." They have to backtrack a little bit and then say, right now they're saying, "Well, we're going to look into possibly making some tweaks to this law." I'll tell you, I've never had a high opinion of Alabama to start with, and maybe that colors my opinion on this bill. But there were some other states, I think Georgia and possibly a few other states kind of on this side of the country that were looking into passing a bill like this, and you haven't heard a word out of them lately since this has all been going on. So I would predict you don't see any other states passing a law like this, because in fact I think it was Missouri is Missouri the show me state? I think it is. You'll have to check me on that, but whatever state that calls themselves a show me state, they're actually taking advantage of Alabama now. Doing this, they said if it's Missouri, they said come on to our state. Said we're the show me state. We're not the show me your paper state. So there you go, folks. I want to just give you the insider's opinion on this thing, and just tell you that it's not living here. It's not. We're not overrun with Hispanics like it's a bad spot. It's not that. You hardly ever see them. They don't cause problems. They don't do anything. They just work. And I understand, and I agree with to a point that it's not fair for people that come to this country to just sponge off of us, because that's kind of what they do. They work here and they send a lot of their money. They live in these squalid conditions up here. They pack themselves in a mobile home that they pay maybe $250 a month on for rent. They live, 6 or 8 in one of these mobile homes, and they work and they wire most of their money back home to Mexico or Guatemala or wherever they're from, and they don't pay tax. Well, they pay sales tax, but they don't pay income tax, and so yeah, there's an element to this that is not fair. But I tell you what, it seems like if these people had the foresight to think about this, it seems to me like if I had people coming in the country who were here and they were working and they were making money, instead of trying to run them off, I think I would have maybe tried to find a way to tax them. You know, it's like, okay, we're not going to bother you. We're not going to uproot you. We're not going to run you out of here. You know, we're not going to do that, but we're going to make you pay a tax to be here. And I just, for the life of me, I don't understand why this can't be thought out like this. I'm not a politician, and I'm not, never been in politics, but it seems to me like the smart thing to do would have been to, like I said, we don't want to run you off. We just want more of your money. If you're going to live here, give us some more of your money. And they probably would have. So yeah, I don't know, y'all. I don't know how this thing will shake out, but that's the new immigration law, and it's a doozy. And I guess either at some point it's either going to be repealed or the courts are going to block it completely from being implemented. But I guarantee probably our new governor there, he probably will not be reelected, and those two senators, Scott Beeson and Mickey Hammond, they probably won't be reelected because, even though there are a certain segment of the population here in the state that still doesn't want anybody here that's not white, for the most part we're progressing past that, I hope. And finally I think we're getting enough people in from other states that it's kind of diluted that people that live here now, for the most part, can actually understand that, hey, we need to progress, and we need to have industries here. We need to make a better life for ourselves, for our kids, for improve our schools. So these old Neanderthals that sit up in their mobile home with their shotgun and their beer, and they say, "We don't need no damn Mexicans here. I don't want them. I don't understand what they say. I can't understand them. So I just need to get them out of here." Hopefully these people are going to slowly die away. But that's the South for you, and that's why I don't necessarily like living in the South. But anyway, I did want to give you a fairly objective opinion of this law. So I know this is kind of a hot button issue for people, so do me a favor, please don't get on the channel and start making rude comments to each other, or start BSing around and calling people names and kind of crap like that. Because if you start doing that, I'm going to remove your comments because I can. And if it keeps up, if you think it's out of control on this, I'm just going to cut the comments off, and I will do it. So don't test me on it, please. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching, and tune in next time. Thanks, everybody. See you.